Welcome back to Celebrity Radio. It's Alex Belfield talking to some of the world's biggest stars and some of my favourite people, and we've got a genuine megastar for you today. Bill Medley was one half of the Righteous Brothers, and since then he's gone on to have mega hits around the world. Brought back to life by Dirty Dancing, Time of My Life, and You've Lost That Loving Feeling are two of the best radio songs ever, along of course with Unchained Melody, which I love. Bill, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Do you know, I'm delicious, but not as good as you. What a life you've got. It's tremendous, isn't it?
Well, I mean, yeah, boy, I can't believe I'm still, I'm going to be 75 in 2 days, and I can't believe I'm still out here doing it. And boy, I just feel very blessed. I'm very blessed to still have my voice cooking, and, it's been an amazing life.
I've spent the last week or so researching you and looking into your voice, and it seems to me you're of a soul generation. I'm guessing you were influenced by a lot of black singers because you've got such a great timbre to your voice and resonance.
Yeah, I have to credit my career to all the black artists from the 50s and bad sinuses. But yeah, I was totally raised on the black artists from the first guy I fell in love with was Little Richard, and then that's when I was about 15, and then I was about 18, 19, got into Ray Charles and B.B. King and all those guys, and they just music was pretty white up until the mid-50s and rock and roll and everything, and boy, it just saved my life.
Is it amazing to you that in 2015, songs that were written 60 years ago are still being played on the radio and as contemporary and popular today as they were then? That's rare. You do know that, don't you?
Well, yeah, I do know that, and it's hard to screw my head onto. I know that You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin' is the most played record in the history of American radio. And that is just so weird to me. And even when Bobby was alive, we just couldn't screw our head onto it. We went into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which was an amazing, wonderful thing to have happen. But it wasn't so weird. I mean, there was like 300 people in there, but to have the number one, played record in the history of American radio is just weird, and I think, I just think maybe it's just because I'm an old man and I'm from that era, is that I just think the songs that were recorded in the 50s and 60s, just had, I don't think they'll ever die.
What was the biggest year for you, 1964 or 65? What was the year you felt you made it?
Well, we had two different careers, kind of. Bobby and I had our first hit record in probably late 62, when we were doing real rock and roll and rhythm and blues, songs like Little Latin Loopy Lou, My Babe, Coco Joe, and they were real rock and roll songs. So that was our first career, or that was our first 3 years. And then in 64, Phil Spector wanted to produce us, and Barry Mann and Cynthia Weil wrote You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin' for us. So it just took us from one direction totally to another. And so I would say, 64 and 65 was I think we recorded Lovin' Feelin' in 64, and I think it became a huge hit in 65, yep. I believe. But, hey, man, every year is a good year,
Indulge me with just one song that got away that you should have said yes to. Which is the one that pisses you off the most?
There's a bunch of them. I turned down In the Ghetto by Elvis Presley.
No.
Yeah, and I actually went in and recorded You Got a Friend, Carole King song.
Did you really?
I recorded it with Carole, and Herb Alpert was producing me at the time, and boy, it just sounded like a monster hit. And Herb Alpert says, "Nah, I don't think it's a hit."
Are you kidding me?
That was a heartbreaker. But I turned down. We got to get out of this place. I think the Animals did it, and so I've turned down a good 2 or 3 careers.
Having said that, in 1987, these hits were brought back to life. Of course, Dirty Dancing did you proud. When they offered you that, did you think it would be a whole lot of nothing, or did you realise that some 30 years later I'd still be talking about it?
Well, with Dirty Dancing, the guy called me and said, Jimmy Einer, he's putting the music together for Dirty Dancing. He said, Bill, I want you to do a song for a movie, and you have to understand, in those days I was asked all the time to do. I said, well, I said, who? Because I had just finished a song with Gladys Knight for a Sylvester Stallone movie, and I said, well, what's the movie? And he said, well, it's called Dirty Dancing. And in those days, Dirty Dancing sounded like a bad porno movie, And I said, well, I can't do it while my folks are alive. But he said, no, it's a really cute movie. I said, okay, great. Who's in it? And he said, Patrick Swayze and Jennifer Grey. I said, well, who's that? Because they kind of weren't big yet, and that movie made them big.
Yeah.
So and I turned it down for about 3 months because my wife Paula was expecting our child, our daughter McKenna, and I promised her I would be home for that, and they wanted me to record in New York, and I'm a California guy. And I said, no, I just can't do it. And finally, Paula had our child, and they called me and said, Jennifer Warnes wants to do the song as long as she can sing it with you. And I said, okay. And they had sent me the demo, and I thought it was a good song.
Mm.
And so the truth is, both Jennifer and I did the song literally just to work with each other. We didn't think the movie would do anything. And that's the weird thing about this business, man. You just don't know where it's going to come from. I've had the time of my life. Just turned out to be a monster. The movie Dirty Dancing is still a monster, and go figure. I'm just a blessed man.
I don't want to be Phil Spector creepy, but have you considered how many babies have been made to the movie Dirty Dancing and to your music? In fact, to your voice, Bill?
Well, I've been told a few. I've met a few that have said, if it wasn't for you, I probably wouldn't be here. But yeah, that's kind of, that's one of the great things about this industry, this business, or singing those kind of songs. I've had guys come up to me, and say, boy, I want to thank you for your music, man. And I can't tell you how many times in the back seat and bang, and then their wives will come up. Their wives will come up and say, I just want to thank you for so many wonderful, beautiful moments in our life. Guys and girls are just two different animals, man.
How does it feel when you hit that high note, you've got to the end of your set, and they're standing on their feet and cheering for more? Is there any better feeling?
No, it's the greatest high in the world, and I can say to all kids and even adult performers, you want to be stone sober when that moment happens, because you want to experience it right to your bones,
I don't want this question to be crude, but why have you survived when so many others haven't? What is it about music particularly that takes them young? It's very rare you get somebody of your standing and caliber still alive at 74.
Boy, I don't know, other than, I've taken decent care of myself. I never did a lot of booze. have a little wine at dinner. When I was younger, I'd drink beer, and never did drugs. Smoked marijuana for 3 months in 1970. The best sleep I ever got. And so, I just been fortunate and pretty good, good DNA from my mom and dad, and just loving what I do and loving my family. I got a great family, grandchildren, and this and that, and I'm every day above dirt is just a blessing to me.
Yeah, it's a miracle and so wondrous as well. I wonder whether the fact that you've kept your feet on the floor is down to Mrs. Medley. I wonder how she managed to do that. Were there moments when you became a bit up your own backside, or were you always a guy that just took the business for what it was?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
Did you ever become an asshole is basically what I'm asking you.
I am an asshole. Nah, you know what? I'm pretty easy. I'm very easygoing. Very hard to get ruffled up. And no, you know what? I was always too busy to be an asshole, because I produced all the Righteous Brothers albums, and even when we were with Phil Spector, Phil asked me to produce the albums because he was going to spend too much money and take too much time, so he asked me to produce the albums. And actually, I produced Unchained Melody just by accident. It was a B-side of our single that Phil Spector produced. But I just think I was always too busy to take myself very serious. I think I always felt extremely lucky, and to have the opportunity. I'm not going to BS you. I mean, luck will only get you through the first door.
Right.
Then it's pretty much talent and a lot of hard work and dedication and love for what you're doing. But no, I don't believe. I'm sure if you ask a few of my ex-wives, you'd get a different answer. But
how many ex-wives are there, Bill?
This is my fourth marriage. My first marriage was 5 years. Second marriage was 1 year. Third marriage was 6 months. My fourth marriage were 29 years.
The 6-month one wasn't a good marriage, was it? That didn't work out well at all.
Man, no. And
what a mistake that was.
We went together for 6 years or something. Maybe we should have quit while we were ahead.
I think 4 marriages in show business is nothing. I think you've done quite well, to be honest. You could be up in 7 or 8 or 9s by now.
I've done all right.
Very finally, the Righteous Brothers, of course, is what we all know. We don't know necessarily Bobby's name as much as yours, and we don't know your name as much as the Righteous Brothers. I always felt that was a very selfless thing to do. Did you care that you weren't the sort of name star? Everybody knows Andy Williams. Did you ever consider just being Bill Medley and Bobby, or was that never an issue?
Well, there was a point in time that we knew, like when we broke up in '68, that it was kind of a drag that, we weren't Bill Medley and Bobby Hatfield, or, instead of the Righteous Brothers. But in today's time, I'm so proud of the Righteous Brothers name and what we've accomplished and this and that. But yeah, it would have made it a lot simpler if we would have been Bobby Hatfield and Bill Medley.
Or the other way around. Maybe Bill Medley first.
Yes.
Listen, I've only said this, I think, 4 times. I said it to Andy Williams. I did his last interview in the UK just before he died. I said it to Benny Andersson at ABBA in his home. I said it to Donny Osmond, and I'm going to say it to you. I hope you realise how much we love you and love your music. You have changed the world. Your legacy will live on far beyond your years, and for that I want to say thank you. Bill Medley, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, well, thank you, man. God bless you for the compliment.
Can't wait to see you in Nottingham. The Time of My Life tour will be touring the UK, put together by David Guest, and of course Bill Medley from the Righteous Brothers will be starring in the show. Great to talk to you, Bill.
Thank you.